Hi, hello.
Sound check.
Hey guys, are we ready?
Six rounds.
12 races.
Tough competition.
Real racing.
From Bahrain to Saudi Arabia.
Iconic tracks.
And breathtaking destinations.
This is the second season.
This is
The Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East.
we're ready to go.
That's it?
That's it.
One more day of running in the UAE for the Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East. It's time for qualifying 2 to set the grid for race 2 for this 4th round of the championship. And after brilliant weather yesterday and some great racing yesterday, we're going to do it all over again with qualifying to set the grid for our 2nd race, our last one of this UAE doubleheader. Setting couldn't be more better. The Yas Marina circuit in Yas Island, 5.2 kilometres, the full Grand Prix circuit, 16 turns, and certainly one of the best F1 facilities in the world. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you might be watching around the world and also around the circuit here at Yas Marina. Scott Woodward here to guide you through all of the action. And as you can see on screen, the car's ready to go, and there's me, all ready to take you through qualifying. Yesterday was once again domination for Janis Stiat, pole position and a new lap championship lap record, beating his teammate Teo Overhaus from last year. He now wants to try and do it all over again and get another pole and another victory to go 7 from 8 in this championship. We're now into the second half of the season, and that now means that it's every single point is really going to count as we get racing back underway today. Well, yesterday's action saw Janis Stiat take pole by nearly 0.6 of a second from the Australian Caleb Sumich, who put in his best qualifying effort to go front row. But he was beaten off the line by the rapid starting James Wallace from 3rd on the grid, and he'll be hoping to this time get closer onto the front row and even possibly even challenge for pole position. But he'll have to go a little bit quicker than he did yesterday in order to make it happen. The cars lined up at the end of the pit lane, headed by Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland Pro-Am champion from last year, Zoran Spreng. And then next is James Wallace, we've just been talking about a few moments ago, Mike Mim, who still leads the Masters category, and then the red and yellow machine of Janis Stiat as they head out on track to begin 30 minutes of qualifying to set the grid for race 2 later on this afternoon. In terms of the temperature right now, here at Yas Marina, it's currently sat at the moment at a relatively toasty 22 degrees, 54% humidity, slight wind in the air, no chance of precipitation whatsoever. It's beautiful blue skies, not a cloud in sight, and a little bit of a draft breezing through. What I would call perfect conditions for motorsport in this region of the world. So this is another one of the rounds where we have 2 separate qualifying sessions. Previously on the rounds which the championship has shared with the World Endurance Championship and with the Formula One World Championship, it's been one single qualifying session where they've taken the fastest and second fastest times. Here though, because we have a more extended program, we can run 2 qualifying sessions, so that means that the times here will set the grid for this afternoon's race. Reminder, there were three classes in this championship. There's the Pro class, the Pro-Am class, and the Masters class. The Pros are pretty much the fastest drivers that you'll see out there, and drivers in that class include Championship leader Janis Stiak, James Wallace, Angus Whiteside, and the young Australian here just for the UAE doubleheader, Caleb Sumich. The Pro-Am category is incredibly competitive. We saw a great 4 or 5-way scrap between them yesterday. Ahead of that were the two Saudi racing machines of Saud Al Saud and Khalid Al Akmadi, but also count in the likes of Zurin Spreng, Alexandra Vateva, and this weekend's guest driver in the championship, the Omani youngster Shihab Al Habsi, following in the wheel tracks of the drivers such as Al Faisal and Ahmed Al Hati, who have graced this championship in its previous iterations since it began back in 2009. And the Masters category, which is for drivers aged 40 and over, the only real stipulation here with that category is that you cannot have held an International B or International Grade FIA racing license. It means that we don't get, as much as we like them, sort of former Grand Prix stars or long-standing GT and sports car racing legends jumping into the category and racing off at a canter. It means we get a nice competitive field, and it's for many of what we call enthusiast drivers. I don't like the term AM too much because it implies they don't have too much talent. They do. There are some quite fast Masters drivers in the field, and certainly ones with plenty of talent, and they race purely because they love to go out and race for themselves, because they enjoy racing a Porsche, being part of the championship, and certainly making an impact and racing against some future young talents, so that if they step up into the world of GT3 racing or GT4 or even getting as high as the prototypes, they can look back and say, I raced against him, I raced against her. Slight bragging rights for their racing career. So pretty much everyone is out on track in this early part of the qualifying session. The only cars that haven't ventured out yet are the pair of Italian-run Enrico Fulgenzi racing Porsches of Alessandro Giannone and Andrea Girondi. Giannone, who, like his teammate, is Anel Habsi, are running as guest drivers, so they are invisible for points. Brilliant drive yesterday in his debut in the championship. He's no stranger to Cup cars, as Alessandro, but a debut in Carrera Cup Middle East spawned a first Masters victory, and that was ahead of Banksy, who took a double win last weekend at Dubai, and also the points leader in that category, Mike Mim, who was running third place for a long time, and then was passed in the closing stages by Peter Brecker. That was a popular third place for the Czech driver running for GT Sports Technology, one of a few high-caliber teams that we have in this championship, like GP Elite and also like Proton Hoover Competition, teams that know these cars practically inside out and race in some of the most popular and successful championships that Porsche Carrera Cup has to offer. This being, of course, one of 12 official Porsche Carrera Cup championships, the latest one to be given the Carrera Cup name. It used to be called the Porsche Sprint Challenge, before that the Porsche GT3 Cup, and this championship effectively has been running ever since the 2009-10 season, and it's grown in stature, it's grown in grid sizes, and a lot of top drivers that have come through and now are moving up into the ranks, or have done, into top-line GT racing, or even into prototypes and in the hypercar class championships like World Endurance at Le Mans and in IMSA, so one or two, in fact, even racing as we speak right now at the Daytona 24 Hours in America, have passed through this championship. And these drivers certainly using this as a real winter warm-up before their regular seasons begin in a couple of months' time. And it's a real international field, some 10 different nationalities representing not just Europe, but Asia, but North America, and even further afield as well. So the first couple of times that you'll see are just going to be banker lap times to get them a bit of a baseline set. You won't see the fastest lap times until much nearer the end of the session, when one, more rubber's been laid down, but two, these drivers ultimately are going to be on effectively a brand new set of tyres each, and they only get 2 sets of tyres for the weekend. So that means that they will have saved a set through free practice, through qualifying, and through what the race won yesterday. Now it's on to race 2, using that second set ideally, if you haven't done already, use it right now, particularly in qualifying. Bed them in, put some heat cycle into them, and get yourself up to speed as quickly as possible. Already, race control is twigging with track limits, because Caleb Sumich has had lap 3 deleted for track limits at turn 1. They are monitoring track limits in quite a few corners, and it's not just the outer track limits they're watching, they're also watching over the apex curbs on the inside of corners. If you launch yourself over those, it might well cause disruption to your lap and even damage to the car. So you've got to be very careful not to watch them too much. So lap times coming in now. First couple of times the drivers pushing on these new slick tyres. And no surprise really that this man, Jan Stiak, is currently setting purple sectors on his first true flying lap of the session. Now yesterday in qualifying he set a brand new lap record, as I mentioned, beating Theo Overhaus's 154.9. He did a 154.774 in qualifying yesterday. Is this lap any close to that? Oh, well, it's a 156.427. That's the benchmark everyone's got to beat right now. James Wallace has gone second fastest, half a second off. Caleb Sumic, who took a front row start yesterday, third fastest, and just behind him, about 6/10 off, is the rapid young Bulgarian lady Alexandra Vateva. She could have put in a really good qualifying session yesterday to take an equal best seventh fastest. I only say third because she just popped up to third because Peter Brecker's had a lap time deleted, and I think so has Caleb Sumic as well. So currently Alexandra in third quickest, and she broke into the 155 yesterday, which was a real target for her. And so my co-coms I would have had here, Robert DeHaan, has decided, I think correctly, to help her understand these brand new tyres because she's so determined to do well. And yesterday, I think was a little bit hampered chasing the tail of Shihab Al-Habsi until he, from what I understand, made a mistake and allowed her to get through on the last lap. So she picked up a handy finish yesterday, scoring 8th position and 4th in Pro-Am class, but I'm certain that she'll be determined today to rise one place higher and grab third place. No less possibly from the man just going through the shot. That was number 5, Sören Spreng, Carrera Cup Deutschland Pro-Am champion from last year. There's Caleb Sumic. First podium in the championship yesterday after the front row start. He has mainly been campaigning last year in Porsche Sprint Challenge. Did a handful of rounds towards the end of the Carrera Cup Australia season. Managed a top 10 finish at Surfers Paradise. And another young talent to watch out for. His goal is to do a full season of Carrera Cup Australia this year. And this again is another great chance for him to warm up ahead of that full-time campaign when that kicks off very shortly. There is the number 10 car of Krista Andero. Now he is in a different car, looks like a backup machine because he was involved in a little tussle with Saif Al-Amri midway through race 1 that brought out the safety car, and that means I think that his regular race car is not in condition to race, so they've given him a spare car to run this weekend for today. It's good to see Krista back out on track. And the only cars we haven't seen set any lap times yet at the moment, well, Krista Andero hasn't set a lap time yet. I imagine that might have been a couple of installation laps to get used to that car. And also the 2 Enrico Fulgenzi Racing machines of Giannone and Girondi haven't also set times yet, but they might be possibly saving their tyres towards the end of the session. Sören Spreng is another driver to have a lap time deleted for track limits at turn 1. You can keep at least one wheel on the white line when you're running wide on the exit of corners or through areas where track limits are a concern, but if you run all 4 tyres off the white line, they have very accurate, very high quality CCTV cameras here, which is pretty much a slam dunk if you get a track limits penalty. In qualifying, it leads to lap times deleted. In the race, if you do it too many times, you get warnings, and then you start getting time penalties added on for extending the track a little too much than you should. So 1/3 distance gone in the qualifying session, 30-minute session to go. Fastest first sector has gone to Saud Al Saud as he heads into turn 9, but only just because a fastest second sector has gone to Jan Stiak, who is currently still the fastest time. Currently on a 156.325 is Stiak. Saud Al Saud is trying to better a 158.468 at the moment. That puts him currently 7th, but I'm certain he will do that shortly as he winds his way through the hotel section, under the W Hotel, past the Marina, and back around to the last couple of corners to end the lap. A couple more times coming in. Caleb Sumic goes to 3rd. Sören Spreng up to 5th. Alec Marley's going to cross the line and taken 4th fastest. A couple more lap times been deleted, Sören Spreng being one of them. Across the line comes Saud Al Saud. Where does he go? He pops up to 3rd, 156.93. The times are changing all the time here on the screen. He was 3rd. Now he's dropped back down to 8th. So I suspect that time's been deleted. It has. And that was at turn 1. So a few drivers falling foul of the exit of the first corner. So the times are switching around constantly. Janusz Stierk has improved his current time at the moment. He's on a 1:56.100 and is again going purple in Sector 1. So certainly bedding in those new tyres pretty quickly. Janusz Stierk, the youngest race winner in Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland history last year, after he picked up a maiden victory at the Sachsenring. Also collected a victory on a cameo appearance in Porsche Carrera Cup Italia last year, and raced in this championship last season, but had to be chasing the teammate Teo Overhaast all season, who eventually went on to win the title, the first title of it being the Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East. And Teo is now an official 2025 Porsche Junior, so he's now moving forwards into his racing career. Jana, of course, looking to try and emulate him in exactly the same yellow and blue DHL livery that those cars ran last season. Now, I think Janusz Stierk either didn't have as great a second sector as he was hoping, or he's backed off slightly. He was a 10th off in the second sector. Maybe just trying not to be too close. In fact, yeah, I think he's backed off a little bit just to gain a gap and start again, because he has got James Wallace in front of him there. Wallace, in fact, was trying to be on a better lap, didn't improve, and in fact, into the pit lane comes Stierk, as has Wallace. So we're coming up to half distance in this qualifying session. I think there's a few drivers that haven't set what you classify as real, true representative times compared to what they had yesterday. You're seeing Shihab Al-Habsi with wheels off and jack stands on, as Krista Andero, I think after some initial shakedown checks, that car is now ready to head back out again. There's a few more drivers heading in to have a bit of a quick debrief with their engineers whilst the session goes on. Maybe check tyre pressures, give some feedback on how the car's feeling, how the circuit's feeling, and then get back out there for a second run. And as that's happening, there's still a handful of cars still on track laying down rubber. We've currently got Sumic, Vateva, Banksy, Almeri and Minsky on track, and also going on to their outlaps now are Krista Andero and now the two Italian Porsches from Enrico Fulgenzi Racing. So Alessandro Giannone and Andrea Girondi are both on track now to set their first lap times. So the running order at the moment, Janusz Stierk on provisional pole, 1:56.100. He's half a second clear of James Wallace in second fastest. Khaled Al-Akmadi third for Saudi Racing. Fourth is Caleb Sumic, the Australian, ahead of Alexandra Vateva, fifth quickest. Then it's Banksy in sixth, who's one of our top Masters runners. Zuren Spreng seventh, but he's had a couple of lap times deleted through this session. Eighth is Angus Whiteside, who was held up in practice in qualifying yesterday in the final sector. Wasn't really that satisfied with P6 on the grid. Currently sat at the moment in eighth. So Jas Marina not really treating the Carrera Cup GB Pro-Am champion from last year as kind as he would like it to. And the rest of the top 10 are currently Saud Al Saud in 9th and Mike Mim in 10th place. We've got a yellow flag at turn 4. So someone's had an off somewhere or a spin, exiting this very fast, high-speed S-bend section out of turn 1 here. I'm sure if we catch it on camera, we might see who it is. Yellow flag's now been withdrawn, so whoever it was has recovered. It might have been Peder Brecker, I think, because he's on the back straight. That is Peder down towards turn 7. And is he testing the brakes, or might try to put some heat into the brakes? But nonetheless, he is simply not going at the full pace down that back straight. You have to be careful, because there will be cars behind him at full speed on laps. Across the line comes the 44 machine. That is Alessandro Giannone, yesterday's Masters class winner. And more lap times coming in. Andrea Girondi now having his lap time deleted after also running wide at turn 1. It'll reset the throttle through 3 there for Giannone. Makes his way down towards turn 5. Of course, they modified this part of the Grand Prix circuit. There is still the initial chicane you can see there, which was they used up until a handful of years ago. And that means it's a straighter, more high-speed approach to that corner. It's a more open entry, a more kind of later apex, tighter exit. But it sets you up down the long back straight where you're hitting speeds of upwards of 250 kilometers an hour in top gear. And then you punch it down through the sequential dog box on the paddle shifts on the steering wheel, down to first gear. And you wind your way through 6 and 7. The exit from 7 is also crucial because it then sets you up for the run towards the other modified part of the circuit, which is turn 9. That used to be a left, right, left section, and then a tighter left-hander after it. Now it's a more longer, constant radius, almost 180 degrees left-hander, ever so slightly banked as well. You have to carry so much momentum through there. It's a faster corner, but it also means that you are under more risk of running wide and possibly even extending track limits. That seems to be a bit of a theme for some drivers, but they are being caught for them where it's being spotted. So all but 4 cars are out on track at the moment. The rest are all in the pit lane doing some tweaks. Back out again, going, yeah, looks like that's Shahib Al-Habsi, being followed by Angus Whiteside and Mike Mim. Shahab Al-Habsi, the young Omani driver, who, if you look very carefully on that Porsche, it replicates the livery of a late 1980s Group C Le Mans winner, which has the logo of a big cat. And good to see there's a bit of a historical nod to sports car racing of the past with that machine. I shouldn't have favourites, but it is one of my favourite looking cars on the grid this weekend. This is another strong contender, Janusz Stiak, current pole man. Now we know he can go into the 154s. Whether he can do it on this new set of tyres, he's got 12.5 minutes to make it happen. So we watch Alessandro Giannone make his way out of turn 5 down the long back straight. This is a really big stop, and you have to remember these cars, particularly at least in Pro and Pro-Am, they do in Masters to help them out, but the Pro and Pro-Am cars, so Giannone will have this, but only the Masters cars have traction control and ABS. They have 1 or 2 driver aids to help them out. The Pro and Pro-Am drivers don't have driver aids whatsoever, so they really have to get used to a car where it's all their braking, all their acceleration on their own. No electronic aids on these cars in those classes. So it's important that they get these cars right. As for Alessandro, he can pretty much stand on the pedal and the driver aids will help him out, being a Masters driver. Out of turn 9. And he winds his way back towards the Marina section that takes him back around underneath the W Hotel. Stunning piece of architecture at this circuit. And it is one of the finest Grand Prix venues in the world. Certainly was the world standard when it was launched back in and held its first Grand Prix in 2009. And since then, it has been effectively, not always, but it's mostly been the site of the season finale in Formula One. So the contenders heading back out on track. There's Søren Spreng. Here come Janusz Stiak and James Wallace. And these two, whether it's in track or in qualifying in the race, on track, they're never far away from each other, are they? It's almost as if James Wallace is saying, anything you're doing, Jana, I'll be right behind you or with you. I want to see what you're doing to get quicker. So back out on track they go. Alessandro Giannone has put in a 1:57.047 for his first proper flying lap, and that's put him 5th fastest at the moment, but I'm certain that with the fastest times yesterday being in the 1:55s and the 1:56s, that we're going to see improvements on that, and Alessandro possibly shuffled down the order. Andrea Girondi, his teammate, has also gone to 11th fastest in the session, so he's now gone on a 1:58.509. And both of the Enrico Fulgenzi cars are setting green sectors, so personal bests. There is Girondi. Interesting fact I learned whilst doing some research is that he took a class win in the Golf Pro Car Championship, I think in this car as well, at least in the 992 class. But prior to him taking that victory, he'd only done track days, and then the team put him on a month of intensive testing and track work to get him up to speed, and it was then after that he managed to declare the class win. So that's pretty impressive for somebody who's now jumping into a car which again has, in this class, no ABS, no traction control. They are a proper driver's machine, these 992 Porsche Carrera Cup cars, just over 500 horsepower from a 4-litre flat 6. And Girondi continues on and stays on a 1:58.509 because he lost time in the final sector, but was on personal bests in the first 2. We're into the final third of this qualifying session, and everyone, apart from Stanislav Binsky, who's at the bottom of the times, is out on track at the moment, so it's getting a little bit busier. So everyone here is going to be trying to find their own little piece of track, their own little piece of real estate creating a gap. You can see one or two cars in front just moving to the side to allow faster cars to go through. That's Banksy, who's just letting Petter Brecker through as he continues out on a lap. And they'll be winding up for their final efforts. It's a fantastic run you get underneath the support pits, underneath the gantries and down towards turn 9. They've had racing here with single-seaters with F4 and Formula Regional, not just last weekend, but even earlier on this week. So the circuit has had plenty of rubber laid down over the last few days or so. Now this is interesting. Andrea Giannoni has just set the new fastest first sector of anyone. So the Italian, who is flashing the headlights to move one of the Saudi racing cars out of the way, now goes to a personal best second, and at the moment, the time is estimating he'll go second quickest. So if he does, this will be interesting. His last lap was a 1:56.683. He's gone third fastest. Could go even quicker. So this could be quite an interesting time as he tries to get the car stopped and rotated through the right-hander of 12 and 13 and 14. Through that Marina complex that might have lost him a fraction of time. And they come now back towards the last couple of corners. So 1:56.6 is the time he's got to beat. I don't think that time is quite accurate. It's a little few seconds behind. Across the line he goes, and there's a 1:56.091, so he goes to provisionally fastest. That's a solid effort, actually, considering that his best time yesterday in qualifying was a 1:56.7, so that's a big improvement for Alessandro. Good effort from the Italian. That will put him quite high. In fact, if he'd done that time yesterday, it would have put him in a couple of places high in 8th. So if he can stay there, that might be a good time to put him in a good spot. Andrea Girondi is also going quickly in car 71. His teammate, 8th quickest at the moment, and on a personal best first sector. And we've had another time deleted for Khaled Al-Akmadi as well. Again, the track limits at turn 1. So got to respect track limits here. Otherwise, that could be the difference between setting a time that puts you on pole or the time that leaves you in the midfield with a lot of work to do in the second race of the weekend later on this afternoon. Angus Whiteside now sets the fastest first sector of the session. He's down in 12th, so he's got a real lap time to pull out of the bag to get into the top 10. We've got personal bests also being set by Stiak and Wallace, and a new fastest second sector for Alessandro Giannoni. We're looking at Girondi now at the moment, but his teammate is about to go even quicker, it looks like. And is he even going to break into the 1:55s, I wonder? Well, there's Angus Whiteside, Porsche Carrera Cup GB Pro-Am champion from 2024. He's only been racing for, this is his 5th season. Began racing back in 2021. He'd been racing karts, but his first car racing championship was in a Ginetta in the GT Academy. Won the rookie class at a Canter, and has been in Porsches ever since. He was a little wayward there through turn 9, but he has set the fastest sectors in sector 1 and 2 of the session so far. He's 2/10 up on Giannoni's time. Yellow flag at turn 15. That's the second to last corner, so someone's had a rotation in the last couple of corners. That might well spoil Angus Whiteside's lap if it's not cleared in time, because he will be expected to back off. There are the yellow flag electronic boards, and the yellow flag's still there, but who? Ah, there it is, and that's the Enrico Fulgenzi car. Is that Giannoni that's had the spin? I think it is, because he hasn't come across the line. So despite setting what was the fastest first sector and then a personal best second sector, Alessandro Giannoni, right, a red flag has come out, and that's interesting because Angus Whiteside has set the fastest lap, but he did go through the yellow flag zone. Not just he didn't back off, but that's interesting. Fastest lap of the session, takes provisional pole, but did so whilst going through a yellow flag zone. Okay, it's not for me to speculate. Let's see if Chris Norman, the race director, or anyone else has a word about that, but either way, Angus does go quickest, and Alessandro Giannoni was on course to set a good lap time too. What this now does is it leaves things a tiny bit jumbled up with a few cars out of position. a couple at least. Saud I'd say, is the biggest driver that's not as high as he would expect to be. Currently in 10th, and he was not on a personal best on that last lap. A couple of drivers were setting personal best times. Caleb Sumich and Alexandra Vateva were both doing personal bests in sectors 1 and 2 when the red flag came out. And there's only 4 minutes and 40 seconds left to go in the session. So this is going to be a real scramble for pole position, which Angus Whiteside has, and took it just before the red flag came out. So at the moment, Angus Whiteside has provisional pole. Alessandro Giannone second quickest, and he was, I'm sure, set to go even quicker than the 156.091 that he laid down. However, he had the spin exiting turn 15. Janis Stiak currently third fastest, and again, has got to find some time here. Otherwise, it might well be a very rare occasion that we don't see the number 40 car on pole. So he really has going to have to go one and done for a quick lap. Maybe two if he can squeeze in another quick one. It'll be dependent on how quickly he can get around to set another lap time. James Wallace, fourth fastest. Khaled Alakmadi, fifth. Caleb Sumich in sixth. And then Alexandra Vateva, who is second quickest of the Pro-Am cars at the moment, 157.465. But we know she can go quicker because she did a 155.9 yesterday with her final flying lap of qualifying 1. So she can go quicker, and she was about to, along with Caleb Sumich. Eighth fastest is Banksy, who is currently on the, well, not on the Masters pole, because that is now by canter Alessandro Giannone. Andrea Girondi with a better effort too. Now he's got a bit more laps in from yesterday on the Yas Marina circuit, ninth fastest. Saud Al-Saud is the big outlier there, 10th quickest, has had a couple of lap times disallowed in qualifying, but 10th fastest for him is not where he wants to be, particularly when he's in a battle for the Pro-Am class lead with his teammate and good friend, Khaled Alakmadi. Petter Brecker, 11th fastest. Zoran Spreng, again, not a great qualifying, but we've seen him make some really great starts in the last couple of races, and he doesn't tend to stay where he qualifies. So he'll be back in 12th at the moment, but certainly wanted to put that right if he can get out and set a good time next. 13th fastest, Krista Andero in his spare car that he's being lended to use, I believe, after his regular car was tangled up with Saif Al-Amri in race 1 yesterday. Mike Mim, 14th quickest, ahead of Mark J. Thomas in 15th. Then Saif Al-Amri, 16th fastest from Shihab Al-Habsi and Stanislav Minsky. That's the running order at the moment. And the clock stopped at the moment at 4 minutes and 45 seconds. That's probably going to be enough for an out lap and at least one flying lap. Maybe two if they're quick enough to get around. Of course, lap times are... Okay, so I understand a couple of cars stopped and had a problem, but they've now got going again. 66 and also one of the Saudi racing cars, but they appear to be got going again, so that's all good. The green flag is back out, and unsurprisingly, everyone is back out to set a time. So all 18 cars back out, and this is really going to be an absolute scramble for pole position, a dash for the cash, so to speak. So everyone's going to be looking for track position here, and they've got to try and get around as quickly as they can, because they can do 155s, but ultimately they're going to get, really, at the very least, one flying lap at this. If they're quick enough to get across the line, some might get a second one, but it'll all depend on track position and how they can make this work. So 3.5 minutes then, the clock already ticking down pretty quickly. And I remind you the order at the moment then. Currently on provisional pole, Angus Whiteside with a 155.817. He's currently on top of the times. Alessandro Giannone, who had that spin at turn 15 that brought out the red flag, he is second fastest. Janis Stiak, third quickest at the moment, unless he can put in another very quick banker lap, which I'm sure he's got one in him. He was probably winding up to produce if the red flag hadn't come out. Currently third fastest, James Wallace is fourth, Khaled Alakmadi fifth, Caleb Sumich is sixth quickest, Alexandra Vateva seventh, Banksy is eighth, Andrea Girondi 9th, Soudal Sound a bit out of position in P10. Peter Brecker 11th fastest. Then Zuren Spreng, Krista Andero, Mike Mim, Mark J. Thomas, Saif Al-Amri, Shihab Al-Habsi and Stanislav Minsky. That's the running order in qualifying as the first contenders come across the line. Now, if you get across the line now with about 2.5 minutes to go, you will get, I think, 2 laps. If you come across the line and you don't make it, you're only going to get 1 flying lap. So these few cars will get 2 laps effectively. So it's going to be Wallace, Giannoni, also Krista Andero. Vateva will get a lap as well, but she won't appreciate Krista Andero in her path as she comes out of turn 1. And a few more across the line. Effectively, a lap around here is 2 minutes. There's going to be about, I think, a couple of cars that will miss out and a couple of cars that will only just get across the line and set a time. So that we're going to see probably 2 or 3 cars that will not get around to do a second lap. So out of turn 5, Wallace is leading everyone behind him, and now it's simply a case of watching the sectors to see who can do what. Caleb Sumich has done a personal best in Sector 1, as has Zuren Spreng, as has Shihab Al-Habsi. Everyone else, the sectors are yellow at the moment. This is critical. When you've had the session disrupted and you've got little time in it, the pressure is really on. Janusz Stiak, I think, was one of the last cars to come across the line, so this might well be his one and only shot at taking another pole position. We know he can nail it over a lap, but he's going to have to put in a flawless lap here to make this happen. He's 3rd fastest. He's got to find at least a couple of tenths, a personal best in Sector 1, but it's not purple. It's not purple, it's green, so 24.8 in the first sector, and there are cars around him that have gone quicker, particularly Caleb Sumich, who's done a sector about half a tenth quicker. Angus Whiteside behind him. Also there in that shot we see Peter Brecker in white, black and gold. And then we've got one of the Saudi racing machines. It might be Soudal Sound, I'm going to take a guess. Yes, it is. Flash of the headlights from Soud, asking him for Peter to move out of the way. And fastest second sector for Janusz Stiak. Zuren Spreng goes 4th quickest on a 156.422. He'll get another go around if he can. There is Janusz Stiak. And Zuren Spreng is up to 4th. Few more personal bests coming in. Sumich goes across the line, does a 155.785 and goes provisional pole. But does Janusz Stiak have enough in the tank here to take it away from him? Into the final couple of corners he will come. The championship leader, who now has a new lap record around this circuit. What lap is he about to produce? He was green in Sector 1, he was purple in Sector 2, and as the championship leader exits turn 16, what's the time going to be? Cross the line, goes Janusz Stiak, takes the checkered flag, 155.339. It is provisional pole position in the end. Angus Whiteside can't improve despite taking personal best in Sectors 2 and 3, but the one and done lap is all he needed to take that pole position, and Janusz Stiak is up to the top of the times once again. There's a yellow flag in turn 1. This is going to be quite interesting. Now, the cars did make it across. Banksy's had the spin, so he gets going again. And that was on the inside of turn 1. How's he managed that? That's extraordinary. Anyway, so there are cars that are on personal best. Caleb Sumich is going quicker, though. Caleb Sumich has a purple first sector, and the Australian, he's got to find another 4 tenths or so, but can he possibly spoil Janusz Stiak's party? Janusz Stiak in car 14, sorry, Caleb Sumich, he's on a fast lap here at the moment. He's heading down towards Sector 2, and it's yellow, so he might not manage it, but he could get even closer. So it looks like he will be on the front row, unless anyone else can massively improve. There are green sectors coming in from Khaled Al-Akmadi, from James Wallace, from Shihab Al-Habsi, from Alexandra Vateva, and it's green sectors 1 and 2 for those drivers. So how much higher can they get up the order in this final lap? Their last chance, as the checkered flag has come out. So Caleb Sumich will come to the end of his lap, and I don't think he'll be getting pole position unless he pulls out an absolute Herculean final sector. He'll have to settle for second on the grid. That time's coming through, and let's see. So Wallace has gone, well, Wallace went to 5th, but then got disposed by Alessandro Giannoni. Alexandra Vateva has gone 7th fastest. She'll be happy with that at a 156.3. And Khaled Al-Akmadi went to 4th quickest with a 156.083. So he takes the Pro-Am pole. Zuren Spreng was 8th fastest on that last lap. Shihab Al-Habsi goes to 9th. And Krista Andero gets into the top 10 also with a 157.073. As for Soudal Sound, not a great lap for him either. He actually is down in 14th. So number 3, Saud Al Saud, the man who came into the weekend leading the Pro-Am class in the points, is going to have to start back on row 7 because of that. And that's a real story to watch out for. Watch for Saud Al Saud, and that could be an opportunity, depending on how quickly Saud can make it through, for the drivers in front of him to get themselves onto the podium. You've got Khaled Al-Akmadi who'll be in the mix, but what an opportunity for the likes of Alexandra Vateva, Zoran Spreng, Shihab Al-Habsi. They could possibly put themselves into the mix to get themselves on the rostrum here. If Saud Al Saud doesn't move through the pack as quickly as he wants to, this could be a real opportunity for them. But speaking of taking opportunities when you have to, that man right there getting out of the car, looking as cool as you like, Janusz Stiak, once again produces when it's needed. 155.339. It's not a new lap record. He's slower than that by about 0.6, but he won't care about that. It's pole position. It's another starting spot from the front of the field. And the young 17-year-old, the German sensation, again, it's showing everyone the way. But again, once more, he has got Caleb Sumich alongside him. And what could it be if he'd hooked up sectors 2 and 3? It was a fastest first sector for him on his last flying lap. Caleb certainly coming on in leaps and bounds. It's a very interesting top 10. You've got Angus Whiteside, who'll be happier with 3rd place. I don't know, it's not for me to speculate, but I don't know if there's going to be question marks about the fact that he did set that lap time whilst going through the final sector on the yellow flag, but it's not for me to speculate. It's down to the race director. He'll have a look at it if need be. But 3rd place for Angus Whiteside. Good effort from him. Khaled Al-Akmadi 4th quickest, and then another great story. Alessandro Giannoni, yesterday's Masters winner on his first attempt here at Yas Marina in this championship. P5, a great effort from the Italian to put himself up on the 3rd row of the grid. Another driver who'll be absolutely kicking himself and ruining the red flag will be James Wallace, 6th fastest despite green sectors in sectors 1 and 2. He's got some work to do from the 3rd row, but we know how good he is at starts, so watch for him on the opening lap. He will try and pick off the first few cars in front of him where he can. And again, in terms of the Pro-Am category, Al-Akmadi takes pole, but look backwards from 7th, 8th and 9th. You've got Alexandra Vateva, 2nd best in Pro-Am class. You've got Zoran Spreng in 3rd in class and 8th overall. Shihab Al-Habsi with a better qualifying effort. That puts him 9th, the Omani driver. And then Krista Andero in that spare car puts himself in the top 10. And given the fact that the other big story from qualifying is Saud Al Saud, the Pro-Am class points leader, down in 14th position. 7th row of the grid for the Saudi driver. He's got a lot of work, and that's an understatement, to come from back there to pick his way through the Masters drivers and then try and get up into the mix to try and close in on the rest of his Pro-Am competitors. So plenty of work for him to do and for the Saudi team to figure out. But a action-packed and dramatic qualifying session there for a variety of reasons. The red flag really did shake things up, and that's what we like in motorsport, a little bit of unpredictability. So it's the only certainty might be, initially, that Janusz Stiak is the favourite to take victory once again. But, as I mentioned, anything can happen. Caleb Sumich is again on the front row of the grid. He gets a good start, pulls himself alongside and applies the pressure. There's no reason why Janusz Stiak couldn't have a more difficult race than he's had before. But he'll certainly be taking full advantage of the fact that James Wallace will start back in 6th. And other key rivals, Angus Whiteside will start back in 3rd. Directly behind him, physically on the grid. And Saud Al Saud has got a real task on his hands from row 7 later on this afternoon. But there is the Pro-Am pole sitter on screen, Khaled Al-Akmadi. Another success for the Saudi racing squad, looked after by Paul Spooner. And that team certainly getting stronger and stronger with every session. And 2 very capable Pro-Am drivers at the wheel. It's Mark J. Thomas on the screen. Good to have him back this weekend. He was off with illness last weekend at Dubai. So his car was sadly sat on the jack stands with no wheels all weekend. But he is back, and he put himself 17th in that qualifying session. So some work to do from race number 2. But full credit to the crack squad from Italy, the Enrico Fulgenzi team. 5th for Alessandro Giannoni and 12th for Andrea Girondi. Both of them not seeing the circuit for the first time. They have been running cars in the 2 major endurance races in the last few weeks in this region, the Dubai 24 hours and even last weekend here, fittingly, the Abu Dhabi 6 hours. And at the end of that kind of little Middle East Cup within the 24-hour series, will be in the mix. There is Banksy being pushed back. He had that spin later on in the session. And he'll start from 11th, so P6 for the 6th row of the grid. And Banksy, the double winner in the Masters class in Dubai. as waving to the crew that are pushing him backwards. It's a really wonderful atmosphere, really friendly paddock in Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East. There's a lot of very friendly, welcoming, hospitable people in this championship. There's no wonder you get drivers from literally all over the world coming to just keep the race themselves race fit and race sharp before the regular season for them in the West in the March and April months when it kicks off. And good to see that the Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East in its second year as an official Carrera Cup championship going from leaps and bounds, and certainly will continue growing. And it's crazy to think we're in the second half of the season now. We've already had Bahrain and Qatar at the end of 2024 when they were supporting World Endurance Championship and Formula One respectively. Of course, we've had the UAE double header past last weekend and this at Dubai Autodrome and Abu Dhabi. And then after this weekend, we have a nearly 3-month wait until the next 2 rounds, which will be once again supporting F1. Back to the Bahrain International Circuit, and then a week after that, it will be at the high-speed streets of the Jeddah Corniche Circuit in Saudi Arabia to finish off the year. Alexandra Vateva's number 56 machine. Again, she's getting quicker and quicker. Driver coached by last year's Porsche Super Cup rookie champion Robert de Haan, and that coaching, it seems, is really paying off. Again, another 7th fastest time for Alexandra. And she went quicker in qualifying yesterday, did that 155.9, would have been absolutely delighted with that. I think we can, and as we then look towards the race, this is how the grid is set to be for racing later on this afternoon. So Janis Stiak, the championship leader, with that final flying lap in qualifying after the red flag, does indeed steal another pole position. He'll be on pole alongside Caleb Sumich, who looked on course to possibly try and challenge him, but had a poor couple of sectors to finish the lap, and he'll be on the front row once again looking for another podium. Angus Whiteside is 3rd fastest, ahead of Khaled Alakmadi in 4th, and then one of the stories of the session, the Italian Alessandro Giannoni, 5th quickest for the Enrico Fulgenzi racing squad. He'll be lining up on row 3 alongside James Wallace, who'll be incredibly frustrated with P6, but again, he's a fast starter. I'm guaranteed he will not stay there. Another great effort too, once again, for Alexandra Vateva. She will be starting 7th on the grid alongside Zuran Spreng, one of their key rivals in the Pro-Am class. Row 5 in the top 10, we see Shihab Al-Habsi in his first weekend of the championship with his Proton Huber competition teammate Krista Andero in a spare car after a tangle yesterday. He'll be starting from 10th. Banksy from Japan will start 11th after taking P11 time in the session from Andrea Girondi in the second of the Enrico Fulgenzi cars. And then it's Mike Mim, Saud Al-Saud, who's another big story from that qualifying. Couldn't get a lap hooked up, had a couple of times deleted, and will have to do it all from 14th on the grid. The Pro-Am points leader with a massive task ahead of him and a lot of challenges in front. Then it's Peter Brecker, 15th quickest, Saif Al-Amri in 16th, and then Mark J. Thomas and Stanislav Minsky round out the 18 cars that will take the start in about a couple of hours' time for round 4, race 2 of the 2024-25 Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East Championship here at Yas Marina. Whilst the teams get prepared, we'll give you a chance to cool off and join us in a couple of hours' time. They'll be then getting themselves set for the last race in the UAE of this season before the championship takes a break. So, Janis Stiak is the main story. Another pole position, has to do it right at the last minute after the red flag, but he is back on pole. Can he now go from 7 race victories from 8 starts? Join us in a couple of hours' time. From myself, Scott Woodward, from all of us here at Yas Marina, thanks for watching, and be in store later on for race 2 for round 4 of Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East here in Yas Marina. Enjoy the highlights, and we'll see you in a couple of hours' time. Bye for now.
Hi. Hello.
Sound check.
Hey guys, are we ready?
Six rounds.
12 races.
Tough competition.
Real racing.
From Bahrain to Saudi Arabia.
Iconic tracks.
and breathtaking destinations.
This is the second season.
This is
The Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East.
We're ready to go.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.